In time of war, it's typical, sometimes even useful, to demonize your enemy. We still see this today whenever a dictator or despot comes to power anywhere in the world. Caricatures and jokes, not always in the best of taste, rise to the forefront because it's our way of relieving aggression.
World War II was a huge part of history, spanning over half a decade. Times were scary, and everyone was expected to pitch in the best way they could. May it be rationing supplies, or even recycling bacon grease to make explosives for the army. Every little thing helped. To keep up the war effort, the United States kept pushing its narrative through the use of propaganda. Different forms of propaganda were used, including art, music, theater, film, books, radio, and the press. All of these other methods did get the point across, but not as well as the animated shorts commissioned by the government. It seemed everyone was on the same page during the time of war. The Americans resented the Japanese for their attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, and with the German slow domination of Europe, the government used Disney to rally support to help the war efforts. Due to a sting of failed animation features at the box office, the Disney company was very close to losing it all until the government stepped in and commissioned Disney to make propaganda material, further aiding the government's push to get the people's involvement and support. The biggest star of the company at the time was none other than Donald Duck. The short-tempered bird was the mascot for Disney's war propaganda. One of Donald's most infamous shorts was 1943's Der Führer's Face. The short special showed Donald's life in Nazi Germany. Soon after, this short would win an Academy Award for Best Short Subject Cartoon. Donald continued to star in more shorts, further helping the war effort. Disney continued to push more and more wartime content, even making training videos for the military. But I sometimes feel that many forget one of my favorite propaganda shorts, Out of the Frying Pan into the Fire. In this propaganda short, Minnie is taught the importance of conservation and recycling bacon grease, which can be turned into glycerin for the war effort. Not a lot of folks talk about this short. I'd like to think it motivated people to consider donating their fats and grease to help the war efforts out. Donald wasn't the only duck starring in these kind of shorts. Leon Schlesinger, the then producer of the Warner Brothers theatrical shorts, was using his own duck, Daffy, to help bring in support for the war. Just like Disney, the government helped fund these shorts, giving them incentive to prioritize making them. Many of the Daffy wartime shorts were typical for the character, but just in a World War II setting. Daffy fights against some big brute, and shenanigans ensue. I believe that many people would agree with me in saying that the Warner shorts tended to be racist during this time. With the idea of hating the Japanese and the Germans being accepted, the already racist studio took it to another level. They showed racist stereotypes for laugh, and at the time had no real reason to hold back. One of the most memorable wartime propaganda the studio did was its War Bond short. This had a different mix of Warner animated stars and even showed Bugs Bunny singing and dancing to keep people entertained. But one question I've always had about the short was, why did they pick on African Americans? I would have expected a Japanese or German joke, but oddly, it had Bugs depicted in blackface for a brief amount of time. More propaganda material kept coming out for Warner, like in 1944's Nips the Nips, where it shows Bugs going up against the Japanese, and 1943's Confusion of a Nazi Spy, a Porky cartoon about him and his bloodhound that has a sneezing problem, trying to track down a Nazi spy. First one is Fleischer Studios. During the war times, they were in the same situation as other studios. They got paid to make wartime propaganda, but the one thing that makes Fleischer Studios a bit different for me is how they've talked about the animators who went to fight in the war. Some of Fleischer's animators served in the war and showed their experiences through drawings. I think the drawings are super neat and very accurate to what they were feeling during this immense time in their lives. Or at MGM, the king of cartoons himself, Tex Avery, was producing his own propaganda shorts like in 1942's Blitz Wolf. I know I've talked about this one before, but I just really think it's classic Avery. I personally don't condone these shorts and think they're in very bad taste, but I do believe out of all of them, this one has to be my favorite. Yes, it has a large amount of the same jokes as the other shorts, make fun of the Nazis and have the winners be the Americans, but Tex was just a master of comedy. The timing of this short was just so great alongside the score that was used. Great gags were used. Although it is a bit outdated, it wasn't too bad considering what Popeye was doing. Something I feel like's never talked about is how these cartoons were kind of out of animation too. Although they were used primarily in funny shorts or in training videos, they eventually branched off to posters and other drawings to help show Americans how to help for the war efforts. The characters ranged on the posters. Some had Donald in them, and other characters like the Warner Stars. Others had Mickey, and others had Minnie. I don't believe these were as popular as the animated shorts, but I think they were still influential in their own way considering they had such big recognizable characters.